Do you still fuck?
Excuse me?
You and David, you still have sex?
Well,
You don't have to answer this question if you don't want.
No. I'm perfectly okay answering. It's just that, well, yeah, we do occasionally have sex.
Occasionally. What does it mean?
What does that mean? It means occasionally. Obviously, as a relationship evolves, some things happen less frequently than they once did. And I'm not just talking about sex. Lots of things change.
So you have an open relationship?
No? Not as far as I know.
Wow. I can't imagine no sex life. I mean, that would kill me.
Well, I didn't say there was no...
Forget about sex, just kissing. I mean, don't you miss it? Like a really good kiss that makes you forget about everything, you know?
You're a funny one.
Why?
Because for Mr. I don't want a boyfriend, no happy endings, you sound pretty romantic about the power of a kiss.
Hello, my name is Spiro Economopoulos, and I am the Program Director for the Melbourne Queer Film Festival. What you just saw was a clip from Sublet, which is screening as part of MQFF Together from March 11th to 21st, and in fact is part of a smaller retrospective that we're doing on the filmmaker Eytan Fox, which will be exclusive online. We're going to be showing some of his early works, including Time Off, Yossi and Jagger, and The Bubble. And you'll all be very familiar with Eytan's work. We've screened many of his films at the festival over the years. He's a much-loved filmmaker, and we're very excited to have Sublet screening as part of the festival. So let's bring Eytan into the stream. Hello.
Hello.
How are you going?
I'm going well. I'm in Tel Aviv. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. I'm happy to be with you in Melbourne. And we just came out of our third lockdown, and it's a big relief to be able to just leave your apartments, roam the streets, go to our beaches, and just like in Sublet, enjoy the streets of Tel Aviv. The restaurants, the clubs, the bars, of course, are closed due to COVID. But you can just walk the beautiful streets and the boulevards and go to the beach. And in the beach, because you're allowed to do some sports, and you're allowed to, on the beach, the boardwalk is just full of people running and doing different kinds of sports. And that's really, now that we're all stuck at home and can't travel. And if I could travel, I'd be with you in person in Melbourne. I'm dying to get to Australia. So that's a long answer for a short question. I'm doing well, and I'm happy to be with you.
Trust me, Melbourne is very familiar with lockdown, so we're all with you there, and it's really glad to hear things are kind of getting better there, which is fantastic. So we all just saw a clip from Sublet, obviously, and the setup of the film essentially is a New York Times travel writer who's come to Tel Aviv to research an article, but in actual fact has kind of gone there to essentially maybe kind of reassess some things about his relationship, and then some deeper things which play out a little bit later on in the film. And he ends up staying at a young Israeli man's apartment, who is a filmmaker as well in the story. Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of the film?
Spiro, the only question I do have to ask before I talk about the film is, have your audiences seen Sublet already? Or...
No. They're going to be seeing, Well, So let's not spoil it too much, but there will be some people who might be looking at this interview post watching Sublet and wanting to hear you talk about it. So it'll be a combination of both.
So we have to find the thin.
It's a juggling act. It's a juggling act. Yeah.
Okay. We'll be okay. So I've been using my films as this kind of therapeutic thing that I do with myself. Once every 2-3 years, when I get the chance to make a film or to create a new TV show, I use this opportunity to reassess, just like the main character in Sublet, just like Michael, reassess, reevaluate my world, where I am, what I feel, what happens inside of me, what happens between me and my loved ones. And so when I started working on Sublet, I turned 50, and I said, okay, who am I now? If I want to make a film, I want to describe my life. What is my life? Who am I? You know, as a man of the world, as an Israeli, partially American, as a gay man, as a filmmaker, and all those things. You know, questioning these things, processing these things, were the thing I worked with, the things I worked with when I thought of Sublet. And then what I usually do is I take all these subjects that piled up in my heart, in my mind, and I try to see how I deal with them with the story, with characters, with the story. And then I thought Michael, a New York Times 50-something writer from New York. I was born in New York, moved with my parents to Israel. Coming to Israel, meeting a young, gay, 20-something filmmaker, that would allow me to process all these things that I just mentioned and try to understand who I was, who I am, and so on.
Yeah.
So that was more or less the process that led me to Sublet. Let's introduce these people, a 50-something gay man from America, a 20-something gay man from Tel Aviv. Let's put them together and have them try to connect, you know, and they start by being very far apart, very different from each other, and slowly but surely create this relationship, find this closeness, this love between the two of them.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And obviously, Michael is the protagonist essentially, who comes to Tel Aviv, but also you have Tamar as well, who's the young queer filmmaker, and I feel like they're both two different sides of your personality as well. Essentially, was there one of those characters essentially for you as a writer that you connected with more, or was the catalyst for you in terms of telling the story?
It was easier for me with Michael, the 50-something-year-old gay artist, writer. You're showing some of my earlier films where the young protagonist was very close to me. It was very easy to connect to him, to write him, to direct him.
Yeah,
I needed help in this case with Tome, with the young character. My friends who were helping me, co-writers, creators, you know, I was suggesting, like, let's take him, let's have Tomil take him to this and this restaurant, to this bar, to this beach. Hey, you're old, you know nothing about the right places to take tourists who comes to Israel. If you were young, if you were 20-something, you would never go to those places. They're too expensive, they're too posh, they're too bourgeois, whatever. So I said, okay, come, stay here, don't move. You'll help me understand this young character, who he is, you know, where he hangs out, what he feels about, you know, Tel Aviv, Israel, the world, being gay, relationships, monogamy, you know, grinder, whatever. Teach me. And they stayed around and they taught me quite a bit. And I learned quite a bit about being a young person in this world today. And it was interesting for me, just like, you know, Michael has this experience. I had this experience with the young people around me, teaching me about the world.
Okay. And actually, one of the things I really like about the story, I think it's a great device actually, is getting Michael to be a travel writer. And so he comes to Tel Aviv, and it's also his rediscovery of, his discovery of Tel Aviv, which is really obviously interesting for you. As you said before, you were born in the States, but you live in Tel Aviv now. Was the city a place that you really wanted to showcase in the story? Was, as you were talking about, you know, like kind of discovering places through these younger friends of yours, was that a kind of journey that you really wanted portrayed in the script?
Yes, you know, I think just as much as I wanted to understand myself in 2020, you know, or when we started working on the film, I wanted to understand Tel Aviv and Israel. You know, I wanted to redefine young Israel, Tel Aviv, Tel Aviv has been a central character in many of my films. You can see in your festival, you can see The Bubble, which was made in 2006 and was trying to catch the essence of Tel Aviv, the energies of Tel Aviv at the time. And it's 2020, and I'm trying to catch its spirit and its existence true to 2020, before COVID. I mean, that's...
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned The Bubble. I'm quite curious to know what are the biggest differences for you in terms of the Tel Aviv in The Bubble as opposed to, I guess, the Tel Aviv in Sublet. What are the biggest changes there that you see?
Well, The Bubble describes a very difficult period in our history where Israel's situation with its neighbors, more specifically the Palestinians, occupation, terrorism. It was a very difficult period in our lives, the beginning of the 2000s, you know. And now is a very different time. Things are a little more easygoing, a lot more easygoing, actually. But Tel Aviv, you know, its spirit is just evolving and growing, and it's such a wonderful, easygoing on the one hand, intense on the other hand. You know, it has this mixture of being this wonderful, very gay-friendly, very liberal, very open-minded city, but then also being in Israel. And Israel's a different story. Israel's a more complicated place. So that also all those different complicated, you know, components come in. You know, at some point, Toma explains, we're in the Middle East, but we want to be treated like we're Sydney or Melbourne. We want to feel, you know, not part of this Middle East problematic, region that we live in. You know, so so that's his approach, of course. But all those things come together in Tel Aviv, and I loved it then. I love it now. I'm a big patriot of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, and I suppose also you're, this is I guess you're a filmmaker making a film back in the bubble and now, and your focus and energies, I guess, have changed a lot as well. So I imagine that's the other thing that's really different between those two films anyway. There's that fire you have as a younger filmmaker and what you want to talk about. And obviously the Sublet's a much more kind of contemplative film, a much more kind of intimate film as well.
Yeah. So that's part of what I was telling you.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand who I was, not only as a gay man or as a married man with no children, a lot of things that I was exploring in Sublet, but also as a filmmaker. You know, the filmmaker I was when I made The Bubble is a different filmmaker than the filmmaker I am today.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think if you see Sublet and you see The Bubble, you see the differences.
Sure. And actually, Sublet's your first English language film as well. Am I correct in that? Is that true?
Well, Walk on Water, a film that I made in 2004, which was actually my biggest commercial success, was 70% English or something like that. But this is completely, in English. That was 60% English or something, I don't know. But this is completely in English, yes.
Was that something that was a deliberate kind of thing for you? Was it something you thought about? Was it just sort of a happy accident, essentially, or?
Well, I think it's because the character was American, and because I was trying again to explore my American roots, and being between Israel and America, how my Judaism fits in, my parents, taking us to Israel, moving us to Israel, being between these two cultures is something that I want to expose again. I wanted to expose again in Sublet. So yeah, the English was appropriate.
Okay, right, yeah, and I think the central, I guess, I would call like a May-December romance. Let's just call it that. Yeah, between the two men is really wonderful. Actually, I think it's really subtly done. The two actors are fantastic. I think there is a real genuine chemistry there and a great energy between the two men. Was the casting process something that took you a while? Did one have to kind of coincide with the other for both of those characters kind of work together? You know, sometimes I think people cast with two people in mind rather than just one. Or was it just sort of a lengthy process?
Yeah, so casting is so crucial, you know, for any film. When the film is really is so about two people.
Yeah,
You know, those two people are so important. The chemistry between them is so important. If it doesn't exist, there's no film, for that matter. I knew I wanted John Benjamin Hickey, who's such a wonderful actor that I've been following for many, many years. I remember seeing plays of his in New York and on Broadway. I remember seeing Love, Valor, Compassion off Broadway before it moved to Broadway and became such a big hit and became a film and so on. And saw John, and I thought, oh my God, this is such an amazing actor, an amazing man. One day I will work with this guy. Then seeing him in The Normal Heart, which he won a Tony Award for. And, you know, watching him on television, The Good Wife and other things. So I really knew he was the character. And I contacted him through his agents, and he loved the script, and we met in New York. And it was, you know, it was love at first sight, really. And then, okay, I chose him, and it was finding a wonderful, I'd say a love interest. I don't want to, you know, it's for him.
Applies. Yeah.
It applies. So he came to Tel Aviv for a few days, and he met 4, I think, different young actors.
Yeah.
And it was clear that with Niv Nissim, the actor who portrays Tomil, it was clear that the chemistry there was amazing. The two men really, you know, hit it off and enjoyed each other's company while we were auditioning, and then afterwards, while shooting and stuff. Tomil became Niv became John's host in Tel Aviv. He introduced John. Yeah, it was amazing. He introduced John to his family. And John came over to his family for Friday night dinners, Shabbat dinners. John is not Jewish, so Niv really introduced him to Israel, to Tel Aviv, to Jewish customs. So he had dinner there, and he went out with Niv's parents, and I was jealous. I was looking from afar and saying, "Oh, these two men are really hitting it off and enjoying each other's company and becoming closer." And I'm like the director who's, you know, looking at everything from afar. But then again, it was beautiful to see it happening and to see them, you know, life imitating art, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it almost is mirroring what's happening in the film, isn't it?
Yeah, it was wonderful to see. Yeah, to watch.
Yeah, they're really, really great together, actually. And it's such an important part of a story that is essentially a two-hander in a lot of ways. So your last feature was Cupcakes, which was, I think, 2013. But you've been, you know, very prolific in television as well. So you've been doing a lot of TV projects in between that. Do you find television has given you a different freedom that maybe working in film hasn't?
Television is very difficult as well. I mean, it's you know, the art that I'm involved in is very, you know, it's difficult because it's so big. It involves so many people and so much money that has to be invested in these projects. So I don't know. Both are difficult, each in its own way. I am developing 2 television projects as we speak, and I don't think they're much easier. Yeah, they do allow different, you know, ways to explore things, because it's not only like, I don't know, 100 minutes where you're dealing with a very, you know, specific arc. You can, you know, the arcs are longer. You can reopen a story. You can, you know, if Sublet was a TV show, the second season would probably be Michael in New York. I hope having a child. Maybe hosting Tomil in New York. Maybe actually Tomil coming over with a boyfriend. Tomil being so much against relationships and monogamy, as he said in the clip you showed, I think, or you know, he doesn't really care for monogamy, or so he I think he changes throughout the film, and he might come the second season of Sublet. He comes to New York with a boyfriend, and he meets Michael, who has a child, and I mean, that would be too good to be true. But Yeah. So
I feel like you should be pitching this to Netflix now, because I want to see this now. Now I actually want to see this. So
yeah, or traveling to Australia, and
yeah, maybe traveling to Australia.
you could
Definitely.
be his host in Australia if we
I
say.
would very happily do that. I could very happily do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's so we have a plan.
I feel like we've got a movie there. That's amazing. Sublet did debut at Tribeca last year, if I'm correct. But by that point, everything had moved online essentially. I think at that stage, obviously we're in a very different world. Last year was a very challenging time for filmmakers, for festivals like ours. How have you found rolling out a film like Sublet, I guess, in this kind of climate? Like, what's it been like? Have there been good opportunities that have come out of it?
It's been very difficult and frustrating. I mean, we were waiting for our premiere in the Tribeca Film Festival as part of their competition. Last April, I think. What we really wanted, Neve, the actor who does Tomer, and me, and the rest of the crew, producers, and crew members, we were so waiting to fly to New York and meet John, who lives in New York, and have some kind of closure. See the film with him, with a large audience on a big screen. The things you wait for as filmmakers, meet audiences, be part of a film festival, which I love film festivals. I love traveling and meeting audiences in film festivals, different places in the world. So, and I promised Neve this experience. This is Neve's first film ever. And I said, Neve, this is so much fun. We will go with our film to New York and then to other places around the world, and we'll have such a wonderful time together. And that, of course, did not happen.
Oh, wow.
So, but we've been showing the film at different festivals, and yes, meeting people online, like, the meeting that we're having now, which is lots of fun within itself. And the film has a wonderful American distributor who really believes he'll be opening theatrically in June. I don't know, but that's what he believes. And
fantastic.
He sold the film to one of the streamers, but that's something we can't really talk about. But what's important for me is that people eventually see the film. I'd love for them to see it on a big screen in a theater, but if that's impossible, just let them see the film in any way possible.
Sure. And has it been difficult sort of getting projects up after this? Are you working on something else next now, or?
I'm working on 2 TV shows, and television and streamers, Netflix, HBO, Amazon, Apple, and so on, have I don't know how to say this, but have gained a lot from our situation, the world situation, because people are stuck at home and all they want is more and more content, more and more films, television. So that those things, I think, are happening, and happening bigger than ever. I think the streamers are looking for content worldwide. Israel has become this force in television making. We have different shows on Netflix, and people really, American executives are looking towards Tel Aviv and towards Israel for ideas and for projects. So I'm developing two shows. Both have LGBTQ content. So hopefully, 2-3 years, I'll be back with you guys. This time in person.
This time we will get you in person. I'll make that promise, definitely.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And show the new shows. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think there have been those opportunities which have come out of it, which is it's heartening to know that film production and television has been able to kind of move through this in some ways, which is really great. Anyway, I'll leave it here. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and we're really excited to have your films and the retrospective screenings part of our festival. Have lots of our audience members come up to me and quite often mention your films as some of their favourites have seen, and I'm being genuine now when I say that. So we're really thrilled, and I wish you the best of luck with Sublet.
Thank you so much. And as we said, we'll meet in Melbourne in about 2 years. Yeah.
I will host you and take you around, I swear.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Spiro.
Thank you, Eytan. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.